So I can't sleep, I'm in my hotel room, and I have nothing to do for the next like 5 or 6 hours. So I thought I would just go over a few old things that are pissing me off. And the first one is this: North Korea proves your white male privilege is not universal, by Lashar. And if Lashar knew anything about intersectionality, she would know that privilege is entirely contextual. There is no such thing as universal privilege, because the very nature of what they term to be privilege is entirely based on the context in which the people exist. For example, they say white men control all of the or most of the positions of power, therefore white men have privilege. It's like, yes. Well, no. It's like, yes, I understand that is your opinion. I don't agree with it either. But let's take that logic and just analyze it for a second. That means that it must be contextual. Therefore, if you go to Zimbabwe, white men are hugely oppressed because they're having their property appropriated by a black supremacist government and whatnot. In fact, that's been reversed, actually. They're asking people to come back. But anyway, that's the example. Obviously. But it's the distinct lack of sympathy and on ideological levels in this article, which is an old article, so it's not like this is new or relevant or anything, but I've got nothing to do, so I thought I'd talk about it. So Otto Warmbier in 2016 was a man from Ohio convicted for subversion for stealing a propaganda banner in North Korea. Now, I remember this when it happened. If I recall correctly, it was just some bunting that was just hanging up and he wanted to take it home as a souvenir or something like that. And he was sentenced to 15 years of hard labour, which seems a little over the top, but when you think about it, in a totalitarian system, any threat to the system is a threat to the entire system. Any small threat, any small infraction is a threat to the entire system, because the entire system, being totalitarian, the nature of it requires it all to be intact, because if it's not all intact, it all falls apart, which is why they have to punish tiny infractions like, oh, you stole some bunting, boom, 15 years hard labour. That's why they have to do this. It's to keep other dissidents in line, because he's being treated like an ideological dissident. And she even describes it here. I'm shocked that a grown man, an American citizen, would not only voluntarily enter North Korea, but also commit what has been described as a college-style prank. Because if you're not living in a totalitarian system, this is literally a prank. It's nothing. It's totally nothing. But I love this. That kind of reckless gall is an unfortunate side effect of being socialized first as a white boy, oh yeah, and then as a white man in this country. Really? Is that the fact, is it? Every economic, academic, legal and social system in this country has for more than 3 centuries functioned with the implicit purpose of ensuring that white men are the benefactors of all privilege. Get fucked. That's not true. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not been in favour of black people, but you make it sound like white men have not been subject to rules and laws, which they obviously have. I mean, that's why they're there. But then she extrapolates that into the kind of arrogance bred by that kind of conditioning is pathogenic, causing its host to develop a subconscious yet no less obnoxious perception that the rules do not apply to him, or at least their application is negotiable. No, he just didn't understand the problem with totalitarian systems. He thought, well, okay, look, worst comes to worst. If I get caught with a bit of bunting, they're just going to take it off me and give me a slap on the wrist and say, oh, that's ours, and take it back. I mean, I can't imagine in China that they would actually give you hard labour for stealing some bunting, you know, and especially not from anyone from a Western world. In a Western country, this is a nothing, an absolute nothing. It would never happen. I mean, nothing would happen, and so that's what he's coming from. It's not because he's white. It's because he comes from a liberal, open society that is not totalitarian. I love this bit as well. I'm willing to bet my last dollar that he was aware of the political climate in that country, but privilege is a hell of a drug. The high of privilege told him that North Korea's history of making examples out of American citizens who dare challenge their rigid legal system in any way was no match for his alabaster white American privilege. No. He didn't think that this was a challenge to their rigid legal system. And really, it's not. Or at least it wouldn't be if you didn't know anything about totalitarianism. But as soon as you know something about totalitarianism, you realise that any minor infraction has to be punished to the maximum extent to prevent other people from thinking that they can do the same, because any minor infraction is a threat to the whole system. What a mind-blowing moment it must be to realise after 21 years of being pedestaled by the world, simply because your DNA coding produced favourable phenotype, that favour is not absolute. That's nothing to do with this. It's literally nothing to do with this. What a bummer to realise that even the State Department, with all its influence and power, cannot assure your pardon. What a wake-up call it is to realise that your tears are met with indifference. Oh, you're loving this though, aren't you? Oh, look at that white boy gets a hell of a sentence for something trivial. I'm not gonna say white tears, white male tears or anything, but it's definitely there reading between the lines, isn't it? As I've said, 15 years performing manual labour in North Korea is unimaginable, but so is going to a place I know I'm unwelcome and violating their laws. Oh, I'm glad to see you're against illegal immigration. I'm a black woman, though. The hopeless fear Warmbier is now experiencing is my daily reality, living in a country where white men like him are willfully oblivious to my suffering, even as they are complicit in maintaining the power structures that ensure their supremacy at my expense. Get fucked. I'm in America at the moment. I've been walking around, and believe it or not, the women have not, non-white women have not been flinching as I walk past them. And I've finished Force and Fanaticism now, and I'm going to refer to it quite often, I imagine, because there's so much there that it's so useful. And one of the most interesting things I find is that the Wahhabi perspective, the Islamic fundamentalist perspective on why women should wear burqas, is for the women's protection. That's they don't do it because they hate women, at least in their rationale. They do it because they want to protect their women, and the women are complicit in this because they think all women in the West are like this woman. They think that they live in abject fear of being captured and raped and taken by men all the time, everywhere, and the only way to protect this is, of course, cover yourself up. Don't tempt a man. Don't do anything. Nothing will happen to you if you make sure that you are effectively invisible. And that's the way that Valentine describes it often, is the women are invisible. And they are effectively prisoners in this ideological construct. And LaShah is a prisoner in exactly the same ideological construct. I mean, this person's so fucking privileged. She gets to write a blog whining on the Huffington Post. And yet she's convinced, in exactly the same manner that the Saudis are convinced, that all women in the West are living in fear constantly, all the time. And it's like, God, what a terrible mental prison this is. But it's amazing the similarities between their ideologies. It's genuinely shocking, and it explains why there is a distinct love for the hardline Islamists with the hardline SJWs.